Piggybacking off of last week's video about architect Mifflin Bell and also a recent live broadcast I did with Lucius Aurelian featuring opera houses in North America, I decided to put this video together highlighting the work of these two gentlemen. We have Ferdinand Fellner on the right and Hermann Helmer on the left. Fellner lives until 1916. Helmer makes it to 1919. Despite that fact, these are the only photographs we have of these two gentlemen to go along with the drawings that I'm showing you. We are told that these two designed over 200 opera houses, 200 buildings, pardon me, mainly opera houses and apartment buildings all across Europe in the late 19th and early 20th century. So the same timeline that we're seeing in North America is repeating itself here in Europe with these two gentlemen. And we're going to take a look now at a collection of the buildings they were said to have designed in that very short period of time. And we begin in 1873 here in Varazdin, Croatia. Pardon me if I get the pronunciations wrong. And you can see here not far from Zagreb. And I've done my best to find the population roughly at the time that these were said to have been constructed. So a small city in Croatia gets the first courthouse attributed to Fellner and Helmer. But it doesn't take long for them to get to Budapest, Hungary, and design this beautiful structure in 1874 and 1875. This is apparently the construction timelines. You're going to see a lot of that in here as well. 1 and 2 year timelines to build these things, but then we're not even taking into account the amount of time these guys were said to have taken to design these. And this was torn down in 1960, I believe. Here's an image of the tear down. Tragic. We move on to Brno, and if I don't know it, I'm not even going to try to pronounce it. You can read it yourself and figure it out. And here we have it in the Czech Republic. And this being constructed and designed in the early 1880s at a time when they have just over 100,000 people living here. This is the type of opera house they are constructing, apparently, in a medium-sized city in the Czech Republic. Of course, a lot of this would be Austro-Hungarian Empire at the time, according to our historical narrative. There's much more to dig into on that narrative. This is the interior of that opera house. Now, do you live in a city of 120,000 people in the modern day? Can you envision them building such a place with our modern technology? And if you're just discovering the channel, the gist of it here is that I like to question the historical narrative. I don't believe the details we've been fed about history. In this particular situation, I would suggest that these two gentlemen are placeholders and have been these buildings have been assigned to them for their creation, and in fact the period of time we're told that they were constructed and by whom is a fabrication, and that these structures were around much longer. Okay, moving on, in the same time period, at a time when this city of Liberec has about 60,000 people living in it, we get a very high caliber opera house. As you can see, with all of the ornate decoration, all of the things we are expected to see with a lot of the old World's Fair structures, actually, with all the statue work going on. A lot of things that get removed down through time. Moving on quickly to Szeged, Hungary, 1882 to 83. You're probably already getting the gist of it, that these two gentlemen really do get around at that early time period. My head is already spinning. Population at the time about 60,000 people. Again, not large cities, yet apparently there's a huge demand for opera houses all over Europe, and of course in North America as well, as illustrated recently on my channel here. I'll put the link to that in the description. And this is just a taste of the interior of the Szeged Opera House in Hungary before we move on to the next opera house in Croatia. And we move on to Rijeka, Croatia, at a time when there's about 40,000 people living there. The wonderful Fellner and Helmer duo create the Croatian National Theatre. And if you're wondering where that is, just as I was, we're on the coastline here of Croatia, Rijeka. And I suppose it's time we talked about the actual builders of these structures. Are we to assume that it didn't really matter what was drawn up, that the locals were able to construct such buildings? Or are we assuming that Fellner and Helmer had specialists, opera house specialists, that they brought around to construct these wonderful works of art? Take a look at the statues here on the sides. Absolutely incredible, not anything close to what we would do in the modern day. Yet they're doing this all over Europe, attributed to these two architects. Yeah, there you have another look at statue work and the gilding going on here in the 1880s in Croatia, in a city of 40,000 people. Even smaller city now. We move to Karlovy Vary in the Czech Republic, not far from the German border. Yes, I'm doing the pronunciation. I'm using the Wikipedia as a cheat here, doing my best to pronounce these for you. So at a time when there's 25,000 people, in 1884 to 1887, at least they give it a 3-year build time on this thing. Let's take a closer look. Again, you have these figurines built into the column work, just over the top ornate. Take a look at the statue work going on the corners here, and then we'll have a look at the interior as well. Absolutely mind-blowing in a city of 25,000 people at the time. Who in their right mind has the justification to construct such an amazing structure? I hope you can see the problem with the timeline that I'm seeing as we go through these structures. And yeah, I'm bringing you a lot of visual evidence to suggest that the story we've been given is absolutely ridiculous. And here it is again, and you can see the types of buildings it's surrounded by as well. Absolutely incredible. On to Odessa. So we were over here, and now in that exact same timeline, they're doing one in Odessa as well. And I don't know about you, but it feels to me like all of these opera houses are just being grouped into the same category, and really sloppy narrative as far as I'm concerned. Really not making any sense. Even the shortness of the timeline and all the rest of it is just ridiculous. Here's a look at the interior of the Odessa Opera House. So both of these going up at the same time, designed by the same gentleman. Now, were they just traveling via train constantly for 20 years, back and forth, location to location, having to be on site as needed? Look at all the figurines in here. Unbelievable. The symmetry is astonishing, absolutely astonishing. Of course, no credit is ever given to the physical builders of these structures. All they do is give us these drawings of these two gentlemen, and they just tell us they died, and that's the end of it. And we just attach these to their names. I couldn't find the population of Bratislava, Slovakia, at the time of the construction, but we also have a amazing opera house going up. Again, in that same time period, right smack dab in the middle of the last two, we've got these two going up. And of course, we're going to throw up another one in that same time frame in Prague. And it's going to be absolutely spectacular with all of the trimmings, as they say. Yeah, I'm a little bit at a loss for words looking at this stuff. And this is a bit of a departure for my channel, which is predominantly focused on North America, America in particular. But I think, as you're seeing, the narrative repeats itself in Europe as well. Surprisingly, because the assumption would be that they would have more time to date these structures. So again, it all seems very rushed. Vienna, Austria, quite a large city. Vienna, amazing old world city, and again, these guys are off to the races. This is all happening in the 1880s so far, all over the place. So it's important to hold that in your mind, I think, when you're looking at all of this, how far-fetched the story we're given is. Another one in Vienna, right around the same time. Very sloppy narrative as far as I'm concerned. There's absolutely no way that these gentlemen were able to knock these out in that short period of time, and then that they were able to be built in those short periods of time. So I'm going to flood you with volume here as we look a little closer at the Volkstheater in Vienna, built in 1888-89. And we're getting the same visual cues that we're seeing in North America, the shadowy posers in the front. Up here we've also got the balcony posers. Inheritor's narrative repeats itself. We're also getting the style of architecture that we're used to seeing in North America, with that mansard-style domes, the circular windows, and of course all of the statue work going on. Absolutely incredible. I wish the resolution was higher on this one. Amazing, amazing statue work. On to Zurich, Switzerland, and we're definitely getting a good geography lesson in this one. This is our first one in Switzerland, and as we scroll out you can see, I believe this is our furthest west so far. Most of them have been constructed over here as well thus far. And we're into the 1890s now. But another absolute stunner. And the interior, of course, not to be outdone by the interior. Let's look a little closer at, again, some of the statues and angels in the architecture. Zurich, Switzerland. And there it is in the modern day. Interesting, you get that lower entry as well, raised steps around it. So this is a worldwide phenomenon with a falsified history, in my opinion. Very organized falsification of history has gone on here. This is Berlin, the whole Germanic area, absolutely incredible old world architecture. And here we're seeing the same opera house, and this gives you a taste of the architecture surrounding the opera house in Berlin at the time. And then it's no wonder what went on in the 20th century happened the way it was, and we know that the wars are orchestrated by the same people every time. The inheritors, we call them. And just a quick look again at some of the interior of the work of Mr. Fellner, Ferdinand Fellner, and Hermann Helmer. On to Salzburg, Austria. As we zoom in a little closer, Salzburg. And not jumping out at us as much as the previous ones, but still retaining much of that magnificence. As we look at the interior, the frescoes on the ceilings, it's just... Anyway, we'll keep moving on. Wiesbaden, Germany, 1892 to 1894, at a time when the population of Wiesbaden was about 60,000 people, right here, not far from Frankfurt, and the lucky small city of Wiesbaden getting an opera house looking like this. And the interior entryway, absolutely sensory overload. Again, we're seeing much of the same pattern repeat itself, and I'm sure that's why Ferdinand and Hermann have been attributed to a lot of these structures. But like I said, I absolutely doubt that these were designed by those two gentlemen and built during the time period we're being told they were. Here's a modern day shot of the Wiesbaden Opera House. Absolute stunner. And there's the interior. We move on to the town hall in Zurich, Switzerland. This is no longer in this configuration of the towers, so I had to get the postcard out. You can imagine probably why this building has been attributed to these gentlemen. We do have some of the interior to show you with the pipe organ, of course. A fixture in the old world structures, the pipe organ. And this is just a quick sidebar to the Palais de Rothschild, built in at the same time period in Paris. I have the entryway with the statues, in keeping with the statues we're seeing, and then also another door. Just amazing, right? And this is also attributed to these two gentlemen. But we'll go back to the opera houses now. Let's move back to the opera houses. Zagreb, Croatia. I believe the third Croatian opera house now we've seen. You can see Zagreb here. And this one going up at a time when Zagreb had a population of about 100,000 people. Not a large city by any means, having all the telltale signs of an inheritors narrative here. Not making any sense why you would build such a structure. But of course it does, apparently, because it's happening everywhere all at the same time. Go figure. And just a look at some of the interior here of the Zagreb National Theatre. The Croatian National Theatre in Zagreb is what it's called. Everybody's watching the show, even the statues. Lassi, Romania, getting a national theatre. And I have taken a closer look at Lassi, and there really is some spectacular old world architecture coming out of that city here. You can see it on the Romanian and Moldovan border. And if you're keeping track, we're just crossing the halfway mark, let's say, of that final decade of the 19th century. But before we do that, we are going to head over to Kecskemét, Hungary. Now, the Wikipedia wouldn't even give me a pronunciation for this one. I had to sound it out. But only 40,000 people living there at the time. And here you can see it not far from Budapest, but a small city. And we have another look at it, and you have a spectacular looking fountain out front, reminiscent of many of the old world fountains that we've seen. And you're probably getting the picture now. How far-fetched. We're only really, 15 years in to most of the construction that we've seen here. We've gone through quite a few structures already. We have quite a few more to go. I think I'm going to speed up the process just so I can get them all into one video. You can, of course, look them up if you want more information. I'll do my best to keep this moving along. So here we have Budapest, 1895 to 96, 2-year construction time. They built this thing. Little look at the interior. And one of those black and white photos. You can see again so much decoration. Spectacular. The Concert House in Ravensburg, Germany, 1896-97. Not looking like a whole lot out front. I don't want to diminish it, but from what we've seen so far in this presentation, maybe a little bit less spectacular, but honestly, if you were to attempt to build anything like this in the modern day, it would be widely celebrated. Graz, Austria, another opera house looking much like many of the other ones we've seen. It still stands, but you can see what they do to these things over time. All of the much of the decoration has been removed. Look what we have on the front here. Almost a mockery, I would say, of what once was. This is what it once looked like. All of the ornate decoration going on. Look at it everywhere. You've got these angels. And now you've got a bit of a mockery going on here. So really sad what they do to these. But it still stands in the interior. It's still spectacular, I suspect, because they're not even able to do much dumbing down of the interior. What could you do in here, really? Paint it all white? Always trying to take away from the old world in this modern age. Marvelous. Marvelous work. Graz, Austria. Berndorf, Austria. Small city of 9,000 people, but gets a opera house. Why not? Hamburg gets an opera house from these gentlemen. These guys, at this point, they're probably just designing these things in their sleep, I would imagine. They're just so good at it at this point. Remember, this is just still the same two architects designing all of these structures. There it is in the modern day. there is something about the modern day photographs that's sort of takes away from the older photographs. Seem to have some sort of texture that's lost sometimes in the modern, and I think a lot of it is because they have taken a lot of the decoration off in many cases. So this one's in Hamburg, Germany. How many countries have we seen at this point as well? Multiple countries. On to Romania, Oradea, Romania, 47,000 people living there at the time, but they get an opera house looking much like the rest of them. And there's the front entry in the Romanian opera house. This being built right on the turn of the century. Again, 1 or 2 year build times. You tell me if any city you know of attempted to build one of these, if they could pull it off within a 2-year time period with all of that decoration. I say no. But we're now into the 20th century, and we're on to Fürth, Germany. Population of 55,000 people at the time, yet we are getting this type of construction. Again, with all of the decoration. In this case, they look to have retained it. Let's see if there's a difference. Maybe not so much. I think some of the corner pieces have been removed. It has been dumbed down again, as they like to do. And another look at the interior. So if you thought all of these opera houses, European opera houses, were 200 years old and they've been doing this for a very, very long time, well, they probably were, for one, but going back to the old world. But the new narrative, the historical narrative we're being given, has shortened the timeline right down to something similar to what we get in North America. Into Vienna now. This is quite something. It no longer stands in this condition. I don't know exactly what it looks like in the modern day. We do have some depictions of what the interior looked like. And again, we're seeing those columns being supported by the statues. And you can see it here as well. Absolutely incredible. You can imagine the manufacturer of these in Europe was having a field day, working in conjunction with Ferdinand Fellner and Fellner Helmer. All right, we're into Poland now. First time in Poland, and we're putting opera houses up now in Poland as well. There's a look at it in the modern day, and just a sneak peek at some of the interior of the structure before we move on. To Ukraine, Czernowice, Koblianska Drama Theater, 1904-1905, 2-year time period. Why not? Cluj-Napoca, probably saying that wrong. Didn't bother with the pronunciation at this point. Romania, population 50,000 people living there at the time, but it's big enough to get an opera house. And that's what it looks like here. So the assumption always seems to be that all of these European cities are just either really old, so they had tons of time to build these, or that they were very populated, and so they had a lot of skilled craftsmen to do the work. And it's just the bottom falls out when you piece these things together, like I've done in this video. I think it should be enough to at least turn your head if you're one who really puts all your faith in the conventional historical narrative. This should at the very least turn your head as to what a ridiculous story they're telling us about these two architects involved with all of these opera houses in such a short period of time. Sofia, Bulgaria, 68,000 people. You get an opera house. And it looks like this. Yeah, and sure, we're going to put chariots with lions and tigers up on the top of the roof. Why not? There's a nice look at that. We got a tiger, a lion, a tiger, maybe 3 lions, just one with a mane, and a chariot on top of our opera house in Sofia, Bulgaria. Gießen, Germany. Another opera house, getting now into the 1900s, so this is right before they start to erase everything, right? 10 years before the great conflagrations of the 20th century erases our history, wipes the slate. Okay, I'm not going to try that one, but a very small city, 30,000 people living there. Built in 06 and 07, two year time period. How many people did they have on this construction? Yet another location in the Czech Republic. This time only 18,000 people living there. Disregard the 1919 here. This was said to have been constructed over 3 years, 06 to 09. And apparently this is what it looks in the modern day. Have they done much to it? It doesn't look like it. Another look at it from the front. And we are coming to the end of the file now. Another one in Austria with more of that amazing interior. Poland. Another inheritor's photograph. And remember too, the maps were redrawn in the 20th century as well. Right? We had what we're told is the empires and the great conflagrations, and then the divvying up, and the United Nations and the League of Nations, and the build-up to the amalgamation of the the one world government and all the rest of it. Klagenfurt, Austria. Vienna gets another one. Why not? Another one in Vienna. And a couple other. This was originally apparently the framework of it was built for a World's Fair, and then the frame was moved to Zagreb, Croatia, and the two gentlemen, Fellner and Helmer, were said to have designed the structure around the existing framework that was transported. So you can look into that structure if you want a little bit more. I thought it was worthy of inclusion, especially with the fountain out front. As we look a little bit closer at the style of architecture, looking all too familiar, no matter where we choose to look. All very familiar, all old world architecture with a false narrative attached to it. So what we're doing here on this channel is we're sifting through the muck and pointing out the impossibility of the narrative we've been given. This is the Hotel Slovan, 1893. This one in Pilsen, Czech Republic. As we zoom out, you can see, of course, that's where I would imagine the Pilsner beer comes from. And it has a little taste of the interior of this magnificent structure for you. Ticking all those old world boxes. Oh, enough to give you a dizzy spell and make you have to sit down. Just another look at the exterior now in the modern day, again with the all those familiar sights and faces, all these faces always looking down at us. And Carlo Viveri, the Imperial Bathhouse, I thought worthy of inclusion as well. Reminding me again of a World's Fair building I've seen in North America. Very, very similar. The ones we're told were built of lath and staff. These ones all are standing and standing firm. This is just a look at the interior of this wonderful bathhouse. So I'd like to know in the comment section, what do you think? Do you think that it's possible that these two gentlemen designed all of these structures and the story we're being told about history is on the up and up? Or do you think there's more to this story and we've been fed a bill of goods, if you will? Thanks for watching. This has been an old world exploration. If you're new to the channel, don't forget to subscribe, hit the thumbs up button, and comment. I believe we are in the process of remembering who we really are and casting off the shackles of illusion. Until next time.